Hi, everybody. Welcome to an edition of Yo on the Go Leadership Moments, where we look to upgrade all the vehicles in our lives. Today's special guest is Sonita Lontoh. She is the VP of Marketing and for 3D print and digital manufacturing of Hewlett Packard, and is previously the VP of Strategic Marketing for Digital Grid of Siemens. This is such an amazing time to be part of the digital enterprise here in HP in the entire world. And you being a Rising Stars conference speaker in 2021, we're super excited to have you here. I have some questions about leadership. Can you share some of your leadership principles and what experiences led you to develop them?
Great question. First of all, thank you very much for having me here today, Terence. Very excited to be able to share some perspectives with the audience. So, regarding leadership principles, I would say looking back, I think my leadership principles have evolved over time, but in general, can be summarized as follows. And of course, my perspective, given that I come from the business world, it would be more business oriented rather than, let's say, perhaps when other people talk about leadership, it could be from government perspective or other perspectives. But I think first of all, I think leaders are customer centric, especially in the business world. Basically, what that means is leaders take the time to really understand the customer's pain points and really being able to articulate how their company solutions are actually helping to solve the customer's problems. I think the other aspect, I think second, leaders are also act like owners. They think long term and will never sacrifice long term vision for short term gain. And I think leaders should also act on behalf of the whole company, way beyond just their own teams. And the last aspect of leadership that I think is very important is actually leaders develop other leaders instead of other followers. And there is this concept of the five levels of leadership and the leadership journey by John Maxwell that really resonated with me. And the premise is that, it basically says that most people start their leadership journey by being a positional leader, which means people follow them simply because of their title or their position. And this leadership level is actually the lowest level of leadership, is the easiest, but it's also the least rewarding. And as all of us, continue to grow in our leadership journey, I think we all know in order to be real leaders, you have to continue to build trust, credibility, influence, and most importantly, be willing and intentional in developing other people as leaders. Some of you may ask, why is this important? Well, in my experience, it's important because when you have more leaders in the organization, more of the organization's goals can be accomplished. And as you spend time to actually grow both yourself and others as leaders, you're actually changing the lives of more of your team members. And this is very important. And according to John Maxwell, as you continue to invest in both growing yourself and others as leaders, and these other people that you're developing as leaders are also in turn develop yet other people as leaders, that you get this multiplication effect. And that
Mm.
is when you are kind of like on your way to the pinnacle of leadership. So when I look back at my career or my journey, I don't think I'm at the pinnacle yet. But as I continue on my leadership journey, this focus of developing other people as leaders, especially my team members as leaders, becomes more and more important.
I really resonate with that. We've all heard about the hero's journey, but that is actually, from what you've described, the leadership journey. The hero's journey is very centric to the individual and their individual experience. But the leadership journey is very different. Sounds like that it is more of a communal growth, both personal as well as communal. That everyone else grows alongside you as you lead and as you train others to lead. That's a really insightful process thought. Wow. So
Exactly.
I do have a follow-on question. In these really uncertain times, when you're trying to train leaders and trying to grow them up as leaders themselves, um, And in this time in which we don't know what the next step is going to be, we never expected 2020 to be like this. How do you motivate your teams to drive towards success when success is a little unsure, unclear at this point in time?
hmm Another great question, and I think very fitting, especially during this coronavirus pandemic time. I would say one of the most important things, as leaders, especially in the business world during this uncertain time, is that, leaders should be even more authentic, more compassionate, and also be able to provide a sense of realistic hope, I would say. I think when you have a good team, even during uncertain times, people want to do well, they're motivated to achieve something because they themselves want to feel that they are accomplishing something meaningful. But during these uncertain times, I think a lot of people are worried because they don't know what's next. They don't know to expect. A lot of their plans that they had planned for a long time, may not happen. So there's just a lot of worries in people's lives. And I think one of our roles as a leader is to really create the space that people can feel safe, that they can have the flexibility and agility in order to, do their work. So let me just give you kind of some examples. I think first and foremost, as a leader, you can be more authentic during this time by actually openly and honestly sharing what you know and what you don't know. What I found is people actually appreciate the transparency and the honesty way more than if you're sugarcoating the situation, because people are not dumb. They see what's going on. I think as a leader, it's so much better if you can be transparent. Second, I think you can show more compassion by understanding that a lot of people, their lives have changed, from simple things like a lot of parents will have to take care of their children perhaps during the day. Some others may have elderly family members that they have to take care of during the day. So one of your job as a business leader is to really trust your team and give them the flexibility and the space, by which they can achieve their goals, their business goals. And then last but not least, I think it's also important for leaders during this time to be able to provide a realistic sense of hope. And what I meant by that is to create an environment where people can celebrate, the little things in life, feel that they are part of a community that cares, so we are doing things like we have virtual happy hours, we have virtual birthday celebrations for some of our team members. And sometimes you can even perhaps send your team members just little books, that provide light inspirations during this time of uncertainty.
Well, that's, I think, really great that you're looking at the holistic person. They're not just the person in their home trying to get the work done, but it's really they're trying to live and trying to continue and thrive. So I really, really resonate with that desire to have the whole person thrive in this time. And I know that we have a really disruptive environment outside right now just because of the way things have happened in 2020. But with any technology company such as HP, you're dealing with disruptive technologies. You're kind of looking to disrupt that marketplace and create something new and exciting and innovative. How do you inspire more creativity and innovation in your workplace?
Great question. Another great question. Yeah. So I would say, looking back, I don't think there is a set template, that you can play with to encourage more creativity and innovation. But I found there are a few guiding principles, that have helped me, and perhaps I can share some of those with you guys. Make it fun, So, for example, with my own team here at HP, we have these quarterly meetings where different people go, we have one session where different people go to different teams and then they think about one big idea that's creative. And then everyone came back to present to the rest of the team in Shark Tank style, So it's fun, it's competitive, and actually you would be surprised, how much creativity and innovative ideas that people come up with. The second, I think, is also important to just make creativity and innovation as part of your everyday life. I think some companies mistakenly believe that, hey, creativity and innovation is this big, separate, magical thing, that is separate from the day-to-day operations. And actually, what I found, the truth can be, the opposite, because I've seen how employees can be very creative and very innovative when they're just trying to solve everyday problems or when there is a crisis. So, for example, during this time, a lot of the team members, they have to pivot their plan because of COVID. And then people try to achieve more with less, because in a lot of companies during COVID, during this pandemic, we just have less resources and less budget. And then, of course, every day, even though there is the pandemic, employees are still trying to deliver superior customer experience to our customers. And so what I found, when you make creativity and innovation just part of your everyday lives,
Mhm.
people can be very creative and innovative when they're trying to solve a problem. And last but not least, I think to encourage more creativity and innovation, I found that it's also helpful to mix people from diverse backgrounds, people from different
Mm.
disciplines with different experiences and perspectives. So, for example, on my own team, I have people who come from, creative kind of advertising background, the classical marketers, but I also have people who are from technical engineering background. I have people who came from startups, people from big companies, other people from new businesses within large companies, people from different industries, with hardware background, software background, services, and so on and so forth. But the point is, when you mix all these different people with diverse background and diverse perspectives, I think you will be able to form and leverage what I call the value network. And basically, what that is the interconnectedness and the interdependencies among the various members of the network can actually advance and deliver benefits to the network as a whole rather than just to the individual member. And by doing this, you realize that, the whole is actually bigger than the sums of its parts.
Wow, that's some. There's a lot there to unpack, and I know we only have a little bit of time. I really hear that creativity is not a skill; it's a muscle that needs to be developed and strengthened and nurtured. And creativity also and innovation also has a aspect of diversity that helps enhance that. You're not just using one muscle, but you're using all these different types of muscles in that body to be able to do something incredible. With all of those
Yep.
things, right? And you're trying to train those muscles and strengthen them, you're always going to end up having failure. So how do you view failure, and what are the key takeaways of your view of failure?
Another great question. And of course, just like any other person, I've had lots of failures in my life. But of course, when I take a step back and look at it from a bigger scheme of things, I don't think my failures have been a matter of life and death. Because sometimes I
Mm.
think perspective is important. When you're in that failure, you think it's the end of the world. Of course, for some people, it's real. It's death related, disease and things like that. Those are real. But most of the time, like in the business world, our failures are not a matter of life and death, right? But I think what is very important is not just experiencing failures itself, but actually the attitude that we have, during or after the failures, and the ability to actually reflect and be able to evaluate the experience and learn and grow from it is more important. I think the attitude part is very important, because what I
Mm.
found is like during good times, attitude will not give you an edge or an advantage, because everyone has a good attitude, right? During good
Mm.
times, but it's actually during adversity and failures. I think your character, it builds your character, and your attitude really makes a difference. And last but not least, as I mentioned, Terence, I think just experiencing failure is not enough. I think your ability to actually reflect on it, evaluate the experience, and learn from it is actually what is very important. And it adds richness to your experience, and it also helps to build your character.
Thank you, Sonita. Thank you so much for this opportunity to just hear from a leader and your experience. And I hear your heart and I hear your desire to grow the next generation. We only have a few more moments. Do you have any closing words for young professionals who'd be interested in, climbing the leadership ladder and becoming a leader in their own right?
Awesome. Yeah, I would probably, well, first and foremost, I think like, just realizing that life is a journey. I think a lot of young people have impatience, they just want to get to the end, but there's no such thing as a journey. So accept that. And there are a few guiding principles I just want to share quickly with the audience. I think the first one is to have a growth mindset and embrace change. Because if anything, I think we all know the one thing that constant in our lives is change. So
Mhm.
embrace change, have a growth mindset, sometimes even disrupt yourselves before others disrupt you. I think it's very important. And then I think the second thing is to celebrate the small victories. I think people tend to like want to wait for these big glorious things before they celebrate. No, I like the big glorious things don't happen very often. I think it's very important to just celebrate, the little victories, the little milestones to remind you that you're on the right track, right? And last but not least, Terrence, I think very important, especially for young people, don't just focus on yourself. Don't just focus on what you like, your passion. It's actually important to have a passion, is important. But I think what is more important is think of how you can combine that passion, which is what you love, with your skills, which is what you're good at, and most importantly, with your purpose, which is what the world
Mm,
needs. So that
mm.
that would be what I would recommend for young people.
Wow, what wonderful gems. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm super excited to hearing more about that. Um, and also for you, the viewer, thank you so much for listening. And you can be able to interact with Sonita and the other great leaders at the Rising Stars Conference in January 2nd, 2021. It is a virtual conference, a global conference, so aspects of diversity and aspects of strengthening those muscles of leadership and creativity are all going to be there. So I hope that you'll look at the description below and click on the link to sign up, to register, and you'll be able to meet Sonita and the other great leaders of this world that we're a part of in this world conference. So thank you so much, Sonita, for your time. And for you, I hope that it's helpful for you. And until next time, bye.
Thank you, everyone.